best action. Nevada is our stop tonight. In Las Vegas, we take a look back at that classic confrontation between Sugar Ray Leonard and Thomas Hearns. And we follow the fortunes of 42-year-old George Foreman, the man who never stops dreaming of the heavyweight championship of the world.
I never did chase Mike Tyson per se. I was only after him and used his name because he was the heavyweight champ of the world. He's no longer heavyweight champ of the world, but I still desire to be heavyweight champ of the world. And I'm not going to be sidetracked by trying to chase down Mike Tyson. I want to be heavyweight champ of the world.
So a determined George Foreman. In his spare time, he's a preacher in his hometown of Humble in Texas. Tonight, though, we'll see him going up against the tough Mike Jameson from San Jose in California, hoping to make it 21 wins in a row. And then we've that classic showdown from 1981, Sugar Ray Leonard against Thomas Hearns for the undisputed welterweight championship of the world. It was then the biggest grossing fight in boxing history, some $38 million. More of that later, but first, it's to Lake Tahoe for George Foreman against Mike Jameson.
Foreman, who weighed in at 253 for the Cooney fight, getting the instruction
George,
from Mills Lane.
Right here, I'm not going to call it low. If you go right here, I'm not going to call it low, all right? We've already had our instructions in the dressing room. Any questions here? Any questions here? Let's get it on. Come on.
And I guess only fitting at Lake Tahoe, one of the largest lakes in the world. Tonight we have George Foreman, one of the largest fighters in the world.
And George actually likes weighing 260. He likes eating, and he says that heavyweights should be naturally big. His handlers, though, are quite the opposite. They don't like him being this heavy.
Foreman said he's never been fast, never will be, so he'll try to turn big into an advantage. Now, what do we figure from Jameson? He has had the history of surviving here, immediately ties up Foreman, but he hasn't had a legitimate sanctioned fight in nearly 3 years.
Well, this is just what we expect from him. A lot of movement, a lot of hanging on early, a lot of tying up, rolling with the punches. You'll see him get hit, and he'll just pull the power away from some of those shots from Foreman. Foreman has got to pinpoint his punches in order to be effective in this fight.
Foreman comes into this fight. The betting line in this area has Foreman a 38-1 favorite. Yes, there is a line on this fight, but we may add that was somewhat of the neighborhood of Mike Tyson being a favorite over Buster Douglas.
Well, the one thing that Mike Jameson has is a good left hook. You can ask Tony Tubbs and Michael Dokes about that. He put both of them to the canvas.
The scenario, as we talked about before, George Foreman has a fight set for June against Adelson Rodriguez, who is ranked number 8 in the WBC. George, by the way, is now ranked at number 10. That same night, Mike Tyson is supposed to fight. The names talked about, Greg Page, Ronaldo Snipes. If they both win, they will then move on, sign a deal for September. And there is Jameson getting it. Jameson says, hey, I fought Tyson. I know what it's like to take a heavy punch, and I want to say that I could also dish it out. And I'm going to be looking to try to nail George Foreman.
And look at Foreman bullying in there, wrestling around with Mike Jameson.
So we talked about Foreman's size. Jameson at 233, and not what you call a well-chiseled look. Actually, when he fought Tyson 4 years ago, he weighed at 240. And Jameson was very happy coming in at 233.
Well, you heard George Foreman's advice to Mike Tyson. He said, if I were Mike Tyson's manager, I'd tell him to take a year or two off, go on a cruise, relax, get far away from boxing. And if Mike Tyson comes back to fight George Foreman, he's not exactly going to be doing that.
Actually, you look at Jameson, outgoing guy, very gregarious, looks a little like Jerry Cooney in the size. We'll see if he reminds Foreman of Cooney in the second round. 25 seconds ago in the first, Jameson, who started his career by winning his first 10 fights, then along the line he was dropped in 2 by Frank Bruno, went the distance with Michael Dokes and Tony Tubbs. He had Tubbs down in the 10th round, that was in '87, and lost to Adelson Rodriguez. But his last fight was 3 years ago. He goes upstairs to Foreman to end the round.
The problem with a crisscross defense, as George is using there, is you can get hit with a right hand over the top. Jameson landed it. Now, Jameson has got most of his power in the left hook, but if he can get the right hand working, it'll be more advantageous for him to come back with a left hook, and he'll be able to use the left hook more.
If you're scoring, we were taking a look at Jameson's record. He's been out for almost 3 years. He has not tasted victory in the ring since 1985, 5 years ago. George Foreman comes in with a mark of 65-2 with 61 knockouts. In his first career, he was 45-2 with 42 KOs. And here in the George Foreman 2, he has won all 20 and 19 by knockout. The only non-knockout was the 10-round victory over Everett Bigfoot Martin. And Sean, we have seen over the last 3 years, George, who was out for 10 years, came back at the age of 39, now at 42, has created a Foreman phenomenon. It's kind of a mixture of curiosity and charisma. He's a blast from the past, the nostalgia. Let's all go back in time. The weight of 260 is certainly bigger than life, but he's a name. The sport currently desperate for big names. He's personable, he's funny, he's a good guy. And as Mike Tyson has taken on the aura of the villain, George Foreman, you could see the reaction from the crowd. He is the hero. But as you had mentioned before, he has really choreographed this comeback. Now, this is Mike Jameson along with Cooney, the only heavyweights he's really fought, and both of them have come off from layoffs of 2.5 years or more.
And it looks like he's going to get a Tyson fight. Everybody who wins here, everybody who wins against Jameson Rodriguez, off of fighting nobody. Fighting a bunch of smaller men, like cruiserweights, pumped up like heavyweights, who's doing it in the heavyweight division. This is only, like you said, the second heavyweight he's fought. He has done it his way.
Jameson quickly holding on, and he is really now taking some punishment to the face. Foreman with the jab. We were wondering what Foreman would we see tonight. The Foreman we saw in his first 19 fights where he essentially did what he had to do, or the Foreman who came out intense against Cooney. And now Foreman is starting to wind it up here in the second round.
What George Foreman has to have is somebody to get excited about, somebody that he's a little bit fearful of, a little on the edge, like a Jerry Cooney. Right now, he's in complete control. You know, in that first round, he did not come out like he did in the Cooney fight. And finally, in the second round, he is.
It's the jab that is opening it up for George Foreman. Jameson said that he would move, stay away, but right now, he's standing right in front of Foreman. It was all George Foreman in the second, and he's picking up the pace here in the third. At this point, does not look at all in danger of losing the bouts in the future with Allison Rodriguez and then the possibility of meeting up with Mike Tyson. Now, Foreman in 67 fights has fought only 2 more rounds than Jameson, and all you have to do is look at the knockout ledger. Foreman 61 KOs, of which 43 of them have come in the first 3 rounds.
And I talked about Jameson suffering from what is called sparring partner syndrome. He's so defensive that he can't get a good combination off on his opponent. He's not getting hit cleanly here in the third round, but he is getting hit. He's just doing enough to survive. He's holding on when he has to. He's moving backwards, taking the play away from those punches. Now, a sparring partner is paid, and he was paid by Tyson $2,000 a week to take punches. Sparring partners, when they rally and when they throw a lot of punches and they win the sparring session, they're fired. They're packing bags.
Well, this may be the top-paying sparring partner performance for Jameson in his career. When Foreman started his comeback, that's about the time Jameson started his retirement, and in that span of the last 3 years, there goes the mouthpiece of Jameson. Foreman has been the busiest fighter, not just in the heavyweight division, but maybe all of boxing. And now Mills Lane steps in, and here in Nevada, the mouthpiece rule, when there was a lull in the action, they could put it in. So Mills had ample time anywhere along the line as this fight is becoming a complete lull in the action.
Speaking of Mills Lane, it's interesting to see a little bitty short guy like Mills Lane, probably weighs in the welterweight class 147 pounds, into these two great big giant heavyweights.
And the crowd comes alive as Jameson tries a right, and now Jameson trying to open up a little more. Foreman in 87 had 5 fights, in 88 had 9 fights, in 89 had 5 more, and here in 1990 and here Jameson does not know where he is right now. Instinctively covers up. There goes the mouthpiece. A timeout is called. A convenient lull in the action now for Jameson, who took a wallop, and it looks like now it's just a matter of time. Jameson trying to haul off. All of his strategy is completely out the window now. Now we will see those survival instincts of Jameson. We may see a little heated seconds before this ends.
Jameson's got to start throwing punches. You know, he only knew about this fight a week ago, and now he's showing it.
You cannot be saved by the bell unless it's the final round. Jameson now on the wobble. Lane could easily end this. Asking him some questions, he'll let it go. We'll see if Jameson can beat the clock.
And Lane better stay close.
This bastard right there. You can do it, baby. Come on. This fellow was doing the elder to his mouth. He's sucking there. Get the head down.
Jameson's a 38-1 underdog coming into this fight. What do you think the odds are that he'll make it out of this 4th round?
There's the best thing he can do is get busy. Take some leather in the face of Foreman. Now between rounds, Foreman is standing up in his corner, not doing the full advantage of that minute, but he's trying to get extra breath into his lungs. He's taking deep breaths over there. In comparison, Mike Jameson in his corner is sitting down, but they're not taking his mouthpiece out. He's having to breathe around that mouthpiece, which is what you do in training. There's a point. Or that was a warning from Mills Lane, but before this fight, you see how high the trunks of Mike Jameson are. Before the fight, Mills Lane said, "I'll let you go here," and that's around the belt there at the top of the trunk.
Not to mention Foreman's also. You know, in sparring against Tyson, Jameson found that he was able to push Tyson away. He felt he could do that with Foreman, and that's just not the case. You're not going to push George at 260 pounds. And there goes the mouthpiece again. Now we're looking at a question of whether Jameson is intentionally dropping the mouthpiece to get a timeout, but Mills Lane will wait for a lull of the action. And is this it? Yes, it is. He sends Foreman to the corner.
And here Foreman is turning it up. Look at the concentration now as compared with earlier in the fight. That man better take some deep breaths and get ready because Foreman's coming right after him. There's a cut over the left eye of Mike Jameson now.
Jameson's known to have a good chin, but Foreman has hit him everywhere but the chin. Side and the side of the face, and now Mills Lane is asking the doctor to come in and examine that cut. And if he doesn't stop it now, it's just a matter of time. James McClellan, the doctor, at ringside with Mike Jameson. He's asking him some questions. Jameson looks like he went 10 rounds. Foreman looks like he's been 1. And they're going to let it continue. Jameson wants to continue. He said he took this fight. He was sitting there against Tyson, felt that he was experienced what a good body shot is, and he looks at Foreman's success at his age, and the scrambled heavyweight division, just to be in there with Foreman. Now Jameson from the ropes.
And every time Jameson gets in trouble, he starts throwing punches.
And it's the jab of Foreman that is picking Jameson apart.
That is what keeps Mills Lane from stopping this fight. There he is. There it is from Mills Lane. That's all. That's enough.
Foreman wound up for that final ride and stops it here in the 4th. And George Foreman makes it 21-0 on the comeback trail. And it's knockout number 20.
Nobody,
Now goes to 66-2 with 62 knockouts. And now dealing with Mike Jameson, who might have taken more in 4 rounds with Foreman than he felt in hundreds of rounds sparring with Tyson.
But Jameson said, this is really an honor for me to fight George. Finally, I get someone to fight that's older than me. He said, I'm the young buck now, but that man, George Foreman, showed him why he has those big hands and heavy power.
And this is where it ended, the final volley of George Foreman, who had Jameson in trouble from the 2nd round on.
And Jameson here showing his survival instinct. Pulling away, look at him bend away from those punches. Boom, the left hook. Down he goes, that's it. Referee Mills Lane had seen enough. He's cut over the left eye.
So George Foreman, who was certainly not as tuned up in shape for this one and intense as he was for Jerry Cooney, but he does get this one behind him and now could start looking ahead to some big paydays with a date against Adelson Rodriguez in June and then perhaps Tyson in September. Let's get the final time on this fight and go to our ring announcer, Jerry Hoffman.
Ladies and gentlemen, at the 2:16 mark of the 4th round, the winner via knockout and still undefeated on the comeback trail, George "The Punchy Preacher" Foreman.
Devastating punches there from George Foreman. His next opponent will be Adelson Rodriguez from Brazil. Then later in the year, he's hoping for a matchup with the Iron Man himself, Mike Tyson.